Batman soups up his ride. This is your look at the Eaglemoss Collection Batman Automobilia, the Batmobile from Detective Comics number 601. The Batmobile from Detective Comics number 601 was one of the most advanced versions of the famous car. It was a high-performance vehicle capable of amazing bursts of speed and filled with high-tech accessories to help Batman fight against crime. It was also one of the only Batmobiles to be used by two different incarnations of the Dark Knight. Before we get a closer look at the Batmobile from Detective Comics number 601, the first thing we're going to want to do is not figure out how big the Batmobile is necessarily, but instead measure off how big the case is. After all, this is probably going to be the way that you're going to display this for yourself. I'm going to stop it right here, just on the very end of it. And from one end of the case to the other, you're looking at the case being 7 inches in length. And I'm switching that to centimeters. Then you're looking at not the Batmobile again, but instead the case being 17.8 centimeters in length. Now, this isn't a new release by any stretch of the imagination. Eaglemoss has been putting out the Batman Automobilia for a very long time, and this one actually dates back, I believe, several years. Why I specifically did the review on this one is because it still stands the time as being my all-time favorite Batmobile ever. Granted, yes, I still like film versions of the Batmobile, but my all-time favorite comic book Batmobile is still the one that first debuted in Detective Comics number 601. Admittingly, I never really got on board the Batman Automobilia. The idea of getting a monthly subscription where you got yourself a car and you got yourself a corresponding magazine that told you all about the car sounded good on paper. Between just losing track of it and knowing that I would probably be getting some Batmobiles I would be less than interested in, instead, I decided just to hand pluck the ones that I really wanted as part of my collection, and I've sort of been slowly buying them over on places like eBay, and been paying probably about $30 to $35 when it was all said and done. Of course, some would say the price of admission is the car itself, but one should not overlook the fact that along with these collectibles that Eaglemoss is putting out, whether it's the Batman Automobilia, whether it's the Star Trek starships, or it's even those miniature statues that they've put out as well, all you get with the collectibles is, of course, that corresponding magazine that tells you all about the subject of that release. And the subject, of course, in this release is the Batmobile from Detective Comics number 601. This is the Batman Automobilia, the definitive collection of Batman vehicles, issue number 13. You can see on the front of the cover, there's the picture of the Batmobile. A few little things I would probably comment on, but I'll wait to comment on that later. You can see it debuted in Detective Comics number 601, an issue I still have to this day, and that is what the cover looked like of Detective Comics number 601. On the side here, it kind of gives you just the action that the Batmobile has been taken place in. One of the things, okay, I'll mention it right now. One of the things I do have an issue with on this particular release is the fact that in some panels, many of the issues that this Batmobile was featured in, it predominantly had a very large yellow bat logo, which as you compare it to this one over here, this image of the Batmobile, they actually revert back to a different, almost 89 style bat logo. Nonetheless, though, we'll flip through this, and I won't go through all of it, but just enough to kind of give you guys a sample idea of what to expect if you were ever to pick up these ones for yourself. You have a top view, a front view, a back view, and side view of the Batmobile, as well as the first appearance read-up. The new Batmobile took center stage in its debut appearance, not only appearing in the cover, but also in the first half of the issue, as Batman was forced to pursue what appeared to be a drug-addled sports car driver. The new Batmobile's speed was even greater than the sports car, but after he was captured, the driver mysteriously turned to dust. It was a start of Tulpa, a 3-part story written by Alan Grant and illustrated by Norm Breyfogle, who happens still to this day to be my all-time favorite Batman artist, and probably one of the reasons why I attach myself so much to this Batmobile. Of course, the rest of the read-up is left to you if you wish to pick this one up for yourself, but it does give you, again, the design elements of the Batmobile. Specifications, it's 192.2 inches, or 4.9 meters long. Width is 82.3 inches, or 2.1 meters wide. Height is 50.5 inches, or 1.3 meters high. Wheelbase is 95.1 inches, or 2.4 meters. Wheel diameter, tire width, and hubs, and all that other fun stuff. Special features, though, is a computer system, state-of-the-art computer system, linked directly to the computers situated in the Batcave. Police scanner, high-tech scanner to secretly monitor police communications. Anti-theft mechanism, various anti-theft devices installed, including injector seat, and self-destruct protocols, armor plating, bulletproof outer shell, bulletproof canopy, retractable bulletproof canopy, turbine engine, or turbo engine, a turbocharged jet engine provides exceptional bursts of speed. SAT-NAV, which is the incarnation of the Batmobile, was one of the first to use advanced satellite navigation technology. And last, certainly not least, security cameras. Cameras mounted on the front and the rear of the Batmobile enabled the driver to see its entire surroundings and zoom in on possible trouble spots. It could also photograph potential criminals and run them through the police database. Then on this side of the page, you've got yourself some blueprints or schematics of what the Batmobile looks like. One neat thing about the center section of the magazine is that you can generally open these ones up. And you also have the cutaway detailing of what the mechanics and what the interior of the car would look like if you took off the outer shell. Quickly flipping through the rest of this, because I know, again, you guys would want to see the car in person. 1989 was a blockbuster year for The Dark Knight, both in the silver screen and on the printed page, as Batman's movie success made him more popular than ever. And really, like all of these things, all of these pages represent the time period in which I was really heavily collecting both Batman comics and Detective Comics. So really, all these issues that I'm looking at here on the interior, short of actually stopping to read all of these are all issues that I still have as part of my collection. The magazine isn't very thick at all. I mean, that's the common thing that you'll find with all of these magazines. When it's all said and done, you're essentially only getting 4 pages, and then, of course, the inside, you've got the open-up panel to show you the cutaway of the car. On the back, you've also got yourself an advertisement for the next issue, which happened at that time to be the Batman Brave and the Bold Batmobile, which would also be one that I would be curious to pick up. As of right now, I think I only picked up about 5 Batmobiles on that, and I have those as part of my collection. But there are certain ones, certainly like the Batman Brave and the Bold release, for example, that I would be very interested to pick up and add to my growing collection of miniaturized Batmobiles. Let's get a closer look at the Batmobile. As you can see, it's contained inside a clear acrylic case. Along the bottom, of course, there's this just cardboard insert that actually is attached to a bubble that goes all the way around it. So you could remove it. All the times that I've collected these, I never really keep them in their cardboard prison. Instead, I always like to remove them. So you just go ahead and get your finger in there. Obviously, this is going to be a bit of a mess. I probably could have easily just cut away, but it's more so just to show you guys that when you do get these for yourself, you just want to peel away the bottom like that. Take the cover off, take the cardboard off, and then you can go ahead and slide this off. It seems every single time I've picked these ones up for myself, the same thing always ends up happening. I take the cover off, I take the cardboard from the bottom, and I remove the plastic that's covering over top of this. And I always end up dropping that back insert. The back insert, as you can see, gives us a carnival scene. And it really does have some nice detailing to it. Like, it's not simply just the car that you're looking at. There's other things that kind of have your eyes focus in on. Of course, you probably already saw it as well. You can go ahead and take the case off. I am of this school myself. I just went ahead and dropped this. You can see you got yourself somewhat of a lenticular background here of the carnival scene here. And it actually looks like, yes, you can make that out, it's all engulfed in flames. But usually, though, I'm the type that likes to take the cases off. I mean, again, you can see how easy it was. There's really no tape or anything that's keeping this at bay. You can easily remove that case off. And you actually have then a full visible option to see the Batmobile up close. And really, up close is where you really can see the amount of detail work that Eaglemoss put into all of these Batmobile releases. Again, like the case itself, it's just plastic. It's just the bottom plastic tray, essentially, that it's sitting on. And then the Batmobile's on top of that. Now, in case you are curious, you can technically remove it. There are screws on the bottom here. You can just unscrew those with your screwdriver, and you can actually take this right off. I haven't yet done that with any one of my Batmobiles, and I don't really feel inclined to either. I mean, once the idea of removing this off the stand, once you've done that, then you've just got like a larger version of like a Hot Wheels car. And I really don't want to downplay this by saying that these are like Hot Wheels cars. The plastic, the actual body is made of plastic. But you can see like there's really some stunning artwork, stunning detailing that they've actually done to the interior. For example, now this particular Batmobile from Detective Comics, actually it was a single seater. So there was no option for him to actually have someone else sitting with him. You can see how the steering wheel is set up. Some various different displays and buttons all on the interior of the Batmobile. And this is actually a Batmobile that was designed with having a dome windshield. One thing I really liked always about this particular design was it reminded me of the old Superpowers Batmobile. Now that Batmobile was sort of a combination of this design here and sort of the Adam West designed Batmobile, where it was a two-seat cockpit where Batman could sit on one side, Robin could sit on the other. I get very much, though, that same similar vibe when I'm looking at this. It does remind me of that Superpowers Batmobile. Again, you've got the Bat logo here on the side. The only thing, again, I would really criticize this Batmobile for doing, I wouldn't say wrong necessarily, because there has been images where I've seen this Batmobile have this design logo, but I would rather have enjoyed seeing the larger Bat logo done in yellow on the sides, on both sides of the car. And in a lot of cases, when you flip the car up, you a lot of times saw that same yellow Bat logo on the top, or the back hood or roof, I suppose, of the car. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that. And I suppose I probably could try to come up with like a sticker or something I could probably put over top of that, but I really wouldn't want to jeopardize ruining this simply just because I'm not happy with the logo that they decided to go with. Despite for its choice of logo design, I still think that the car turned out really good. The paint is exceptionally good, giving us a nice glitter metallic blue. Again, you can see like the headlights, for example, are raised from the rest of the hood. And I don't really honestly know if you can actually roll these, having never really taken them off the stand myself. I guess they do have probably functioning wheels. Anybody that has removed these would probably know better than I would. I've always, again, really liked the design of this one, especially the back fins, where I always kind of remember reading the older comics as a kid, how those back fins curled inward. I feel like almost in the comics they were a lot wider than what we're seeing here on the car, but I guess this is a pretty faithful recreation. I think it's more so just my imagination as a kid. Those memories, remembering of reading comics when I was younger, I think I've just distorted the fact that the car was exceptionally wide. But I do like the design that they've added to it. They have all these little kind of recessed lines that they've contoured on the sides of those fins. On the back of the Batmobile as well, this whole section would be all done in red. I don't feel like the red really does stand out very well. On the bottom of it, you can also see there's a couple of little exhaust pipes, ports on the bottom of the car. And again, it's a good looking car, I always felt, from all the way around. But I think it always looked the best when you saw it like on an angle facing forward, is really where you saw the full scope of its head design. Does look a little like a bat head. And of course you had the curved sections of the fins. Really is what the one thing that grabbed me when I initially saw this. Part of it may have had something to do with the fact that, yes, it does look like the Superpowers Batmobile, but I think it really does have a whole charm all on its own. Now, the Batmobile has changed a little bit, where at one point they had taken this design, and again, they started incorporating the cockpits, but they kind of kept this design for a fairly long time, really. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I like this car so much. It represents really the full stretch of the 90s when I was really reading Batman and Detective Comics. This was the Batmobile I always considered Batman driving at that time frame. You also then pair that with the fact that Norm Breyfogle did the art styling of the comics back in the day. Probably can all be added up to one of the reasonings why I think this is one of my all-time, if not, it is my all-time favorite Batmobile ever designed. Sure, I can say I dig the design of this slick-looking Batmobile, but I think a lot of it also has to do with nostalgia. Why I have this particular Batmobile as my all-time favorite probably has a lot to do with the fact that I was collecting comics through the full stretch of the 90s. I was there at the beginning. I was there when Batman got his back broken by Bane and Azrael took over, and I feel through that whole time frame, Batman seemed to have this particular Batmobile. It may have also had something to do with the fact that this Batmobile looks very much like the Superpowers Batmobile, even though the Superpowers release obviously had a two-seater cockpit going on this. This one only has the single seat option. But I feel like looking at it from the front, I see very much that Superpowers Batmobile vibe. The colors are nice, bright blue and vibrant. And of course, you've got those bright yellow headlights on the front. But the thing that I always remember the most when it comes to this Batmobile is always the front shots that you saw of it, where you saw those big fins at the back and the big red big, bright yellow headlights on the front. By far, this is my favorite all-time Batmobile. And I don't think we've gotten very many releases of the Detective Comics 601 Batmobile either, short of the one that we got here from Eaglemoss. If it isn't the case, let me know down below in the comment section what other, maybe Hot Wheels did do a version of this. If that's the case, that's probably going to be the next thing I'm going to want to hunt down, as I want to really get any version release of this particular Batmobile, because it is my all-time favorite. Have you guys been subscribed or collecting throughout the years the Batman Automobilia magazines and cars? Let me know down below in the comments section. But the question of today's video is, what is your all-time favorite Batmobile? You already know mine. My favorite Batmobile in the comics, at least, is Detective Comics 601 Batmobile. But what is your all-time favorite Batmobile? Let me know down below in the comments section. Also, if you're new to this channel and you're liking all the content you're seeing, consider the idea of hitting the subscribe button down below, turning the bell notification on. And of course, as always, come back to this channel Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and of course, 2 p.m. We do it 2 times a day. Come back to those times when you can see new videos popping up. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.